Albedo was walking with Ben, looking around, saying he didn't know museums could be so popular. And Ben tells him that it's the first time alien artifacts were officially on display as such for the human populace. Albedo asked if they hadn't been on display before, and Ben says that they have, they just didn't know it was alien in origin. This is the first time everything here is known outright to be alien. They asked why they were there again, and Ben tells him that he could stand to learn a bit more about their heritage. Their grandmother is alien. They look surprised hearing Ben telling them that they had alien lineage, and it wasn't just because of the Watt. As some dumb-looking cartoon, artifacts started talking, and people were watching it. Ben says he's got a date with Gwen, and Albedo needs to learn more about this stuff if he wants to be a great plumber like him and Max someday. As he begins to walk off, Albedo questioned who would bring a date to a boring old museum, and Ben responds anyone who knows that their date would love to visit one, before walking over, finding Gwen, and tapping her on the shoulder. She turned to look as Ben stood beside her looking at the exhibit she was previously looking at and says, "Volgranders." Interesting. As Gwen then hugs Ben and kisses him, glad that he'd made it. She then asked if that was Albedo wandering, and Ben says that learning more of alien culture would be good for him, as they saw Kai was giving a tour to people in the museum. Kai walks over to them and says that she wanted to apologize for how she'd acted back when they were kids and during the whole Excalibur incident, acknowledging she had been a brat and that she deserved to be punched in the face back then by Gwen. Ben simply shrugged his shoulders in response to that, telling her apology accepted, but that doesn't automatically make them friends. Nodding, Kai then offers to give them a VIP tour, which Ben says would be good for Albedo as he needed to learn more about alien cultures besides just the plumbers and fighting aliens in Undertown. She then nodded and began giving the tour, leading them over to an orb that she says was 12,000 years old and made of an unknown material with an alien language inscribed on it that no one could decipher. Ben walked over and Gwen asked if he'd come across it before. He tells them that it's difficult because he hadn't been able to fully learn that one yet. He was getting something about time and a warning maybe, but that was about it. Kai asked how he was able to read it, but his grandfather couldn't, and Ben says he's traveled the galaxy more due to bounty hunting on top of being a plumber. The language appears to be similar to ancient Zugthurian, but he wasn't completely sure on that. Kai nodded, saying she'd let her grandfather know, and then said to follow her as they continued the tour, with her showing them the ancient Detrovite eating utensils, and explained how they had worked, saying that 3 of the artifacts behind her were older than their solar system, which Albedo said that he thought aliens only had future stuff, not like old stuff, and Ben sized, with Kai telling him that's the point of the exhibit, to show the similarities between aliens and humans. They suddenly hear something going off, and Albedo asked what that was, with Ben telling him it's an alarm, with Kai cutting in that someone must be trying to steal the orb. They ran off back to where it was supposed to be and found that it was missing, with Ben telling Gwen to check the ducts and Kai to go alert security of the situation. Albedo asked what they were going to do, and Ben says it's hero time, and they cheered, about to hit their duo tricks, but Ben stops them, telling them that they needed Waldmutt for this one. They should be able to find whomever had stolen the orb among the area. Nodding, Albedo changed into his Vulpamancer form and sniffed around. Albedo snarled and began chasing after something that the others couldn't see and tried to make a grab for them, but missed and slipped, slamming into another of the exhibits and almost knocked over a large shining black stone of some sort, with an alien girl using her abilities to stretch to slow its descent as other aliens help set it back up, and Kai thanked the girl and she says no problem. Ben and Albedo continued chasing after whomever had stolen the orb, and the latter, still transformed into Wildmutt, busted through some doors, chasing them down, before managing to knock them over as the woman who'd stolen it appeared, asking when was the last time he'd brushed his teeth, with him timing out and looking confused. She managed to get free and knock him against some display glass case as she was about to fight him, but Ben appeared and throws the woman off of him, seeing that she was the same species as Prisoner 775, and she refers to him as the great Ben Tennyson before introducing herself as Subdora, telling him that she wasn't about to fight him alone, as she changed invisible and ran off. Ben picked up the orb as Gwen had showed up along with the others. Kai was glad to see that Ben had saved the orb and went to hug him, but he sidestepped her, handing her the orb. Instead, moving to step away from Kai, telling her if she wanted to hug someone, she could hug Albedo. He made the thief drop the orb after all, while Ben Ben just walked back over to Gwen. We then cut to later on as Kai was showing them the high security room, where they were moving artifacts with the alien girl that had helped out earlier also there helping. They tell them that's the last of it, as Albedo says that he wants to get to Burger Shack before it closes so that Mom doesn't make them try any of that healthy stuff, and shudders with Ben telling him he'd learned to appreciate her cooking when he was a little older. He didn't like it much at his age either. Using the communications function on his watch, Ben called Rook asking him to pick up Albedo since it was a school night anyway, and take him to Burger Shack since he'd promised earlier he'd take them if he behaved at the museum. Then on back to their parents' house. Rook says that he was glad to help as he liked the meatball subs they had there, and told them that he wouldn't be long. After Rook came and got Albedo, the rest of them stayed there for the night, and Gwen asked who this alien girl was that was staying there too. Kai says that her name was Esther and she'd helped out earlier. She thought, maybe she could help out here too, while fidgeting a bit. Ben raised an eyebrow but shrugged it off, figuring that's their business. The alien girl, Esther, had gone to the vending machine saying that they couldn't get into the snack bar and dropped a bunch of bags onto the ground. Ben thanked them for that, saying he'd hit the snack bar a bit later, with all the defense stuff being activated, and he'd picked up one of the bags with Kai asking him not to open those near the artifacts because she didn't want cheese dust all over her grandfather's life's work. Shrugging, he did just that, opening it up and getting cheese dust on Subdora, who had been standing too close to where Ben was. He tossed the chips immediately and went to fight. She jumped over him, grabbing the orb, and ran off, setting off the alarms and security door, with Gwen using her magic to pull her out as Ben had raced through already. Though they tried to get through, Esther and Kai were trapped inside the high security room together. Subdora then runs past the car wash and uses the water to clean herself off to better get away, and went to find a place to hide, with Ben and Gwen still chasing after her. She had began doing something with the orb, pressing some stuff, making it light up in the process, with the light leading Ben and Gwen to where they were. They'd found the orb, but not Subdora, as she seemed to be gone already. Still, after making sure it wasn't a fake or rigged with anything, they brought it back to the museum. They tell them what happened, and Ben says something about that was bothering him. If it wasn't the orb they wanted, then what was it exactly? We see Subdora with the mutated rhino guy from way back in the OS Ben 10,000 episode, as they tell their boss, mission accomplished, as she holds up the device, with the boss saying that Tennyson has just lost the keys to time itself with an evil laugh.